It's your boy Mayhem once again, and we're back now with another On This Day in Black History, February 20th, 1845. Samuel Sambo Anderson was one of the enslaved people on George Washington's Virginia plantation, Mount Vernon. The early history of Anderson is unclear, but what is known is Anderson was from what is now known as West African nation Guinea. Anderson claimed to have been part of a royal family in the religion before his capture and enslavement. Washington purchased Anderson sometime in the late 1750s and quickly put him to work at Mount Vernon. While living enslaved at Mount Vernon, Anderson worked as a carpenter. He helped build and repair plows, carts, wheels, door and window frames, livestock pens, fishing boats, and even coffins. Anderson and other skilled craftsmen also built the stone houses, barns, and overseers' houses at Washington's plantation. Although the wooden mantle on the Mount Vernon mansion's dining room fireplace was designed by Bernard Sears, an English craftsman, in 1775, Anderson and other enslaved craftsmen actually built the structure. The work of Anderson and other skilled craftsmen ensured that Mount Vernon was virtually self-sufficient. Anderson married another Mount Vernon bondservant, Agnes, who was a field worker. The couple had 6 children: Hughie, Cecilia, Anderson, Ralph, Charity, and Charles. All of them lived with their mother since Anderson was required to live separately from his family. Despite the separation, Anderson found ways to take care of them. He hunted birds, hogs, which he sold to Washington. Anderson also became a beekeeper and sold gallons of valuable honey and beeswax to Washington between 1789 and 1797. Like all enslaved people at Mount Vernon who were owned directly by George Washington, Anderson was emancipated in 1801, 2 years after Washington's death in 1799. Anderson was now free, but his family remained enslaved because Agnes and her children were considered part of the Custis estate of Martha Washington, George's wife. The provisions of the estate prohibited George or Martha Washington from freeing what were known as the Custis slaves. Happy birthday to you, Sambo. Is that where they get the name Sambo from? Because that's definitely a derogatory term, and we don't get down like that. But if you know the history, Moving along, February 20th, 1874, Walter Moses Burton holds the distinction of being the first black elected sheriff in the United States. Burton was also a state senator in Texas. Burton was brought to Fort Bend County, Texas, as a slave from North Carolina in 1850 at the age of 21. While enslaved, he was taught how to read and write by his master, Thomas Burton. After the Civil War, his former owner sold Burton several large plots of land for $1,900, making him one of the wealthiest and most influential blacks in Fort Bend County. In 1869, Walter Burton also elected sheriff and tax collector of Fort Bend County. Along with these duties, he also served as the president of Fort Bend County Union League. In 1873, Burton campaigned for and won a seat in the Texas Senate, where he served for 7 years, from 1874 to 1875, and from 1876 to 1882. In the Senate, he championed the education of African Americans. Among the many bills that he helped push through was one that called for the establishment of Prairie View Normal School, now Prairie View A&M University. Burton also served the Republican Party as a member of the State Executive Committee at the State Convention of 1873, as vice president of the 1878 and 1880 conventions, and as a member of the Committee on Platform and Resolutions at the 1892 State Convention. In January 1874, Burton was granted a certificate of election from the 13th Senatorial District, but a white Democrat contested the election. The Texas Senate confirmed Burton's election on February 20th, 1874. Burton ran for and was re-elected to the Senate in 1876. He left the Senate in 1882, but remained active in state and local politics until his death in 1913. February 20th, 1869, Tennessee Governor W.C. Brownlaw declared martial law in 9 countries in Ku Klux Klan crisis. Frederick Douglass, original name Frederick Augustus Washington Bailey, born in Tuckahoe, Maryland, United States, died February 20th, 1895, in Washington, D.C. African American who was one of the most eminent human rights leaders of the 19th century. His oratorical and literary brilliance thrust him into the forefront of the U.S. abolition movement, and he became the first black citizen to hold high rank in the U.S. government. February 20th, 1900, J.F. Pickering patents airship invention, contributing to early aviation advancements. February 20th, 1927, Sidney Poitier was born. Sidney Poitier is an American actor and director, and the first African American to win the Academy Award for Best Actor. He was born on February 20th, 1927, to Evelyn and Reginald James Poitier, who were farmers from Bahama. At the time of Poitier's birth, his parents were in the U.S. to sell the produce from their farm, and Poitier was born 2 months prematurely. He was a very weak baby and wasn't expected to survive, but his parents stayed behind in the U.S. to nurse him back to health before taking him back to the Bahamas with them. He grew up in the Bahamas but received a U.S. citizenship as he was born there. He lived on Cat Island until the age of 10 and then lived in Nassau until the age of 15. Then he moved to Miami to live with his brother for 2 years, and at the age of 17, he moved to New York City. In New York, Poitier worked a string of menial jobs, improved his English with the help of a waiter who taught him to read, and then joined the United States Army. He auditioned at the American Negro Theater and landed a role in production there. However, his first venture into acting was not very successful, especially as he lacked singing talent. He then worked to improve his acting skills and to get rid of his Bahamian accent. Over the next 6 months, he received better roles and established himself as an actor. His first leading role was in the Broadway production Lysistrata, and his performance garnered positive reviews from critics. He landed a role in the 1950 film No Way Out, in which he played the role of a doctor, which led to more prominent roles such as 1955 film Blackboard Jungle. Poitier became the first male African-American actor to be nominated for a competitive Academy Award for his role in the 1958 film The Defiant Ones. In 1963, he made history by becoming the first African-American to win the Academy Award for Best Actor for the 1963 film Lilies of the Field. Despite the immense honor, he was concerned with being a token African-American actor cast in typical roles. Shout out to you, Sidney Poitier. Poitier. Had a little French accent on there, Poitier. Happy birthday to you. February 20th, 1936, jazz singer and actress Nancy Wilson was born in Chillicothe, Ohio. Shout out to Ohio. Nancy Wilson was an American singer whose career spanned over 5 decades, from the mid-1950s until her retirement in the early 2010s. She was especially notable for her single, You Don't Know How Glad I Am, and her version of the standard Guess Who I Saw Today. Wilson recorded more than 70 albums and won 3 Grammy Awards for her work. During her performing career, Wilson was labeled a singer of blues, jazz, R&B, pop, and soul, a consummate actress, and a complete entertainer. The title she preferred, however, was song stylist. She received many nicknames, including Sweet Nancy, The Baby, Fancy Miss Nancy, and the girl with the honey-coated voice. Holy crap. Nancy Wilson was born on February 20th, 1937, it says, not 36. That's up for debate. In Chillicothe, Ohio, to Odin Wilson, iron foundry worker, and Lillian Ryan. Wilson attended Burnside Heights Elementary School and developed her singing skills by participating in church choirs. She attended West High School in Columbus, Ohio, where she won a talent contest and was rewarded with a role as a host for a local television show. She then went on to attend Ohio's Central State University, where she pursued a bachelor's degree in education. I did not know that. She died December 13th, 2018 in Pioneer Town, California. Shout out Nancy Wilson, Ohio's own. Central Ohio's own. A little out of order, but Army Lieutenant General Emmett Page Jr. was born 1931, February 20th in Jacksonville, Florida. 1955, on this day in 1955, February 20th, several civil rights activists were arrested in Montgomery, Alabama for organizing the bus boycott, a pivotal event in the civil rights movement. I seen the monument that was honoring them in Montgomery when we were there. 1963, Charles Wade Barkley was born in Leeds, Alabama. The Hall of Fame basketball player and television analyst was born on this day in 1963. 1988, Rihanna, born Robin Rihanna Fenty, was born in St. Michael, Barbados. Rihanna is a globally acclaimed singer, songwriter, and businesswoman. She has achieved numerous chart-topping hits, has made significant contributions to music, fashion, and philanthropy. Shout out to Riri. Glad that your hubby free. Marianne Anderson's 1939 Lincoln Memorial Concert announcement. On February 20th, 1939, the Marian Anderson Citizens Committee picketed the Board of Education in Washington, D.C. after the renowned African-American contralto was denied permission to perform at Constitution Hall due to racial discrimination. This protest led to the historic open-air concert at the Lincoln Memorial on April 9th, 1939, attended by over 75,000 people. Some other notable events: Jimi Hendrix's stage debut in 1958. On February 20th, 1958, 16-year-old Jimi Hendrix made his stage debut with an unnamed band at Seattle's Temple de Hirschsene Synagogue. Inspired by blues artists like Buddy Miles and B.B. King, Hendrix purchased a guitar for $5 and began teaching himself the instrument as a teenager. Quincy Jones's Grammy achievement in 1991, February 20th at Radio City Music Hall, Quincy Jones received 6 Grammy Awards for his album Back on the Block. This album is celebrated for embracing a century's worth of black music history, blending genres such as rap, bebop, jazz fusion, African music, and contemporary pop and R&B. Special shout out to Kentucky State University, hosting their Green and Gold Day at the Capitol, celebrating all their alumni, retirees, volunteers, students, faculty, staff, and friends of KSU. Shout out to my wife. She is attending KSU at the moment, bettering her education. Kentucky State was established in 1886 as the State Normal School for colored persons, becoming the second state-supported institute of higher learning in Kentucky. The university's primary mission was to train African-American teachers for employment in the state's black elementary schools. The institution opened its doors October 11th, 1887 in Frankfort, Kentucky, with 3 teachers and 55 students. The first building, Recitation Hall, now known as Jackson Hall, was constructed in 1887 and remains a significant landmark on campus. Once again, shout out Kentucky State University, Green and Gold Day. And that is today, February 20th in Black History. Peace.